Welcome to the official Catchup podcast. It's me, Ben, and I'm joined this week by Derek and Chris. How you doing, Derek?
I'm good, mate. How's you?
I can't complain. Not a lot to do right now, is there? I'm in a tier 3 zone, but it's like there's not really much you can do. Let's be honest, it's not that different to tier 4.
Do you hear that, folks? That's a tier 3 flex if you're sitting in lockdown
That's a wee brag in it. Thin brags about the old tier 3s. How are you, Chris? How are you?
Aye, good. 10-2 on the fantasy, lads. I don't know if you've noticed that. Miles ahead, but I've still got the Ravens defence to play. But you know what'll happen though, eh? I'll get papped out by Mozza in the playoffs.
Aye, when I've forgotten to take a wide receiver out my starting lineup like I did this week and still won somehow. Derek Henry, thank you.
Oh, no. You've no won, mate. You've no
won. If I know, I've got beaten.
Tyreek Hill scored about 60 points, so you've lost.
I deserve that, to be fair, because I've no been paying attention.
Just a shout out to our sponsors, the Soccer Shop Direct. Follow them on Twitter at the Soccer Shop D. Or check out the website on www.thesoccershopdirect.com for all your teamwear and football equipment needs. Another week in the Lowland League, and we'll start at Radio Park. It was Gretna versus Bonnyrigg Rangers, and it was a 1-0 win.
I don't want to oversell these wins because we've kind of been talking them up. They've been playing well, so I know the fans are obviously delighted, like Jonathan and that, but every win my expectations goes up, so I don't want to oversell it, but yeah, decent win. 5 minutes in, great ball into the channel from Craig Reid, finds Lewis Allen down the right, he picks out Callum Smith in the centre of the box, his shot is straight at the keeper, so an early chance there for Bonnyrigg Rangers. 18 minutes, fantastic pass from Ewan Smith, finds Lawler out wide, he fires it across the goal and it's pinched away from both Lewis Allen and Callum Smith. And it was a chance at the other end, Gretna's first chance of the game, 19 minutes in. Dylan Kearney has an effort from 25 yards, which just goes over the top. And it was a big chance for Bonnyrigg on the half-hour mark. Allen gets on the end of a flick from Callum Smith. His effort is tame and straight at the keeper. 34 minutes, it's another chance for Gretna. A mistake at the back leads to a cross from the right. Farrell O'Sullivan fires it across goal. It falls to Lewis McGrattan, who shoots wide. Grant Nelson had to go off injured, sadly, for Bonnyrigg on the 37th minute. Early change for Bonnyrigg due to that injury. Bonnyrigg started the game well, but Gretna came back into it as the half went on. Chances at both ends, however, level at half-time. Bonnyrigg were forced into another change as Kevin Waugh had to go off injured, so they had to switch to a 4-3-3 with Lyle Smith coming on and joining Callum Smith and Lewis Allen in attack. And on the 50th minute, it was a goal for Gretna. The ball worked into a crossing position on the left. Daniel Smales is on hand to score from close range. 2 minutes later, a chance for Bonnyrigg to get back level immediately. The ball works its way to Callum Smith in the box and his shot is blocked and goes behind for a corner. A few minutes later, another great chance for Gretna to double their lead as Dougie Horn makes a fantastic save when 1-on-1. It might have been sealed for Gretna on the 70th minute. It was a penalty for them, but Dougie Horn saves from Lewis McGrattan to keep Bonnyrigg in it. And it was another chance just to finish it for Gretna. Another great save from Dougie Horn, who pushes an effort away from range. So it ended 1-0 to Gretna. Great home win for them. There's probably a few talking points here, obviously, because I think we've talked to fans before. They've been quite boisterous in their, I guess, criticisms of some of the results, which is fair enough. But I don't know if you guys have seen it, but are they going a wee bit too far? Because I think all Bonnyrigg are really missing is just that final finish. And they had loads of chances in this game, but they obviously just didn't get the goals. Maybe they're not as clinical. What are your sort of thoughts, guys?
I think Bonnyrigg have kind of struggled all season with putting the ball in the net, haven't they? They've been relying on set pieces a lot of the time to get goals, and I don't know, they're a very solid lineup in terms of, like, when we played them, they were really well organised and they got a result, justifiably got a result against us, but I don't fear them as another team in this league. I don't think if I'm going to face them, you're fancying your chances of getting a draw at least and keeping a clean sheet and nicking an odd goal to win it. So I agree with you. I think what Bonnyrigg really need is somebody to stick the ball in the back in it. And it's similar when you kind of consider what happened to Spartans last season. Very solid, very structured, very well organised. You just need somebody to start putting the ball in the goal, you know. So Having said that, I'm delighted for Gretna, because I did say when we were down at Radio that I was impressed with them and they're trying to play football the right way under Rowan. Rowan actually called out his players a couple of weeks back. We talked about it. And he's had the desired effect. So we questioned him at that point, thinking, is that the right thing to do? But he's bearing the fruits of it. It seems that he's got the reaction he wanted at the players, hasn't it? So Gretna are a much improved side, I think, on the field from what they were last season, put it that way. And if it wasn't for a horn stormer, they could have had more by the sounds of it.
In fairness, Derek, to what Rowan said, I still think it was harsh. I mean, they've scored a few goals here, but I wouldn't ever expect Gretna to be romping teams. I think he was getting at the fact that they've not really made, the most of their chances, but I don't think there is. I mean, even look at like Kelty, for example. They've got Nathan Austin back, but they're still not going to be romping teams, 4-5-0. I don't think it'll be, I don't think it's ever going to be like that for Gretna. I know it's a bit harsh having said that, they won 2 games in the trot 5-0, but again, it was probably a wee bit old school mentality. Jordan Irvin left the club due to those comments, so he's obviously upset a few of his players, but I guess that he's trying to challenge the players, but I think, it's not for me to say for me personally as an outsider, that's sort of best said in training rather than in public, and that would be the only criticism of that. But to me, I think Rowan's old school in that sense, that he will come out and say his piece, which is admirable. But at that time they had won the last 2, and we were unlucky against Civil. So I don't know. I think it was the wrong timing to be saying that. Basically,
it was no coincidence to say that when he signed Evan Glasso, was it? It was basically a kind of message to the strikers: put up or get out of the team. So, regardless of what we think about it, he's getting results in the pitch, and I'm sure he'll be more than happy as we go into next week.
Is there a better for Yano and Kevin Haynes at Berwick? I know Kevin Haynes had put something on his Twitter, basically some football fans don't know what they're talking about. Maybe a criticism to the Berwick Rangers fans for being a wee bit too critical.
I wouldn't be too concerned because they're doing the important thing. Fundamental first rule of football is don't concede. And they've got that sorted. They're really well organised, as I said. They just need to get a wee bit more creative going forward. And that's something that is probably a nice thing to work on in training. Like trying to encourage players to come out their shell and try things, run at defenders. They've got players there that are capable, so it'll just be a case of trying to make everything click, I'm assuming. And we'll see if they try to add in any forward-going players as well, and potentially in the loan market.
Yeah, and just finally, obviously they've had their few injuries as well. They've been missing people. Obviously, Lewis Barr, a big one. Kevin Wall looks like he might be out again after just coming back, and Grant Nelson. So it's a tough one. But we always think in terms of fans that Berwick are probably among the most critical because of having been on SPFL side before, and I think it'll be an interesting one. But you're right. There's signs there for Berwick certainly. For myself, so it's just about putting the ball in the net, basically.
Okay, next game was Bonnyrigg Rose versus East Kilbride. It was a 2-1 win for Bonnyrigg Rose, and it seems like the referee was a popular man, shall we say, at Newlands Park.
There is no evidence left on Twitter of what occurred during this game, but let's just say it made some interesting reading from the official club accounts. But a massive one for Rose. It started off in the 5th minute with Curry getting a shot away in the box, but it came back off the post, so a really good early opportunity. Rose continued a good start, 7 minutes on the clock. McGahey getting free in the box, and keeper getting a hand to his effort as it flashed across the goal. And then 16 on the clock, Rose got a penalty from an East Kilbride handball, and Lee Curry made no mistake from the spot to fire home the opener. And at that point, East Kilbride had to fight back, and they started doing so. Miller going into the book for what Rose described as a shocking challenge on McGahey. I think East Kilbride's Twitter had a different viewpoint, and that will be a common theme as we go through this report. The only other thing for the first half, just before the half-time whistle went, George Hunter found himself in behind the East Kilbride defence from a direct through ball, and his shot was well saved by McGinley though. So 1-0 at half-time, and straight out the blocks in the second half, Kilby went down to 10 men, and with Kyle Hutton seeing red. And at this point, it was open season on the social medias that Kilby were not impressed with the performance of the officiating crew. But on the hour after that, Hunter found himself through in goal, so it was all one-way traffic. McGinley saved well, and Young saw his header cleared off the line from the corner straight afterwards as well. And it kind of, bit of a Towsy affair, looked as if it was actually going to finish as a draw, because 5 minutes left, corner whipped in by Wilkie, and Miller was there at the back post to stick it in the back of the net for Kilby. And they actually got straight in again a minute later, straight for kick-off. A last-minute block, really good block for Wilson, managed to keep the scores level. And Rose got another penalty with 1 minute left of the game. This time Curry fired into the keeper's left. So no mistake again. 2 penalties, won it for Rose in a massive, massive result, especially scoring the goal right as injury time was hitting. Kilby losing the unbeaten record. And yeah, it was always going to be a big, big game, that one, in the grand scheme of things. But Rose have had a couple of games recently where we've questioned them, in fairness, and I think a lot of people have questioned them, but drawing points, that gets them right back in the running of things, and I'm sure Robbie will be absolutely delighted with the result.
Yeah, I was expecting East Kilbride fans to be protesting outside of Hampden but to be honest, I watched the highlights of this, and Rose looked the better team. I don't think there was much argument in the penalties. One was a handball, the other was a penalty for me. So it looked like Rose dominated it. I think East Kilbride were a wee bit better in terms of their chances after they went down to 10. Mm-hmm. And I tell you what, I like Ricky Miller, I really do, but he was probably lucky to stay on the park with the tackle he made on McGackie. So, yeah, look, it's football. We all got frustrated, but I'm going to side with the ref on this one. Sorry, East Kilbride, but yeah, Bonnyrigg, the spell that they were on with the draws and obviously the loss, I think that's forgotten about. It's football, A few more wins and you're back in the game, basically.
Chris sides with a referee. Shocker on the podcast.
That's a revelation and a half, Chris. I wasn't expecting that. However, I did watch the highlights myself. I tend to agree with what you were saying about the key decisions. They did look pretty set in that regard. I think we have been pretty critical about Rose the last few weeks when they have kind of dropped points against probably what we'd see as perceived as lesser teams, if you like. But certainly coming back there getting a result, and it's a great win, as you say, Moza brings them right back in amongst it, up to third now in the table, and get that game in hand as well. So right back in the race.
I think the interesting thing that I took away for the highlights was it looked like Kilby's defence was a wee bit static. They struggled because Rose seemed to get loads of joy putting the ball over the top of them, was one of the things. And Ricky Miller's not the most mobile of centre-backs. He's an old school, no-nonsense, does his job and does a simple thing centre-back, and he's great at what he does. But he got a wee bit bullied by McGahey at times as well, which was interesting. So I wonder if Kilby will maybe think about switching things up a wee bit at the back, just because Rose had a game plan and executed it really well, I thought.
I actually think that was EK's game plan, to try and go in and bully Rose, and they've kind of been on the wrong end of the cards for it, because that's a lot of the way. I think sometimes when you're up against these former sort of junior teams, I actually agree. I think the decisions were correct, and I think Bonnyrigg were the better team and they completely deserved the win, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think maybe about East Kilbride as well is their kind of star players didn't really seem to turn up either in the game, didn't really have a lot kind of influence in the match, and if you're having that and you're relying on these guys, it's maybe been a tougher day at the office for them. So, but yeah, by all means, good result for Bonnyrigg, and I definitely have been pretty critical of them. So fair play, getting the result on Saturday.
I mean, with the league schedules the way they are, no team's going to turn up every single game because obviously condensed schedule, injuries, form will go in and out. So it shouldn't be a surprise that no team's going to stay unbeaten.
Gallifreyan Rovers versus Kelty Hearts, and it was a 2-1 victory for Kelty at Nairdale.
Kelty opened the scoring fairly early on, 11 minutes in. Dougie Hill opens the scoring for Kelty after heading home from a Dylan Easton free kick. On the half-hour mark, after a long ledge strike from Scott Taylor-Mackenzie, it was well saved by Jameson. The resulting corner is then tapped in by Scott Taylor-Mackenzie, who equalises for Gala. Score against his former team there, Scotty. Good form. I think he's six goals this season. 34 minutes, another great chance for Gala to take the lead, but Rogers' volley is just over the bar. Kelty under pressure from the home side, but it was Kelty that retook the lead after a brilliant turn from Dylan Easton to slot it past the keeper with his left foot, 2-1 at half-time to Kelty. And there was a wee bit of a difference opinion online on how this second half went, but from what I've heard, Gala had the best of the chances. On the hour mark, dangerous delivery from Gala corner is palmed away out for another corner by Jameson. Resulting corner is caught, and it was a brilliant chance for Scott Taylor Mackenzie to get his second, but his effort from inside the box is caught by Darren Jameson again. And on the 88th minute, an ambitious effort from range for Gala is wide off Jameson's goal. Kelty win 2-1. As I was mentioning, there was a bit of a difference of opinion on this match. From what I've heard, Kelty did sort of stay off in the second half, with Gala really sort of dominating the half. Obviously, I wasn't there and I didn't see it, so but I do trust that's how it went. You don't really get a lot of Kelty sitting back, so I'm assuming they would, Gala being on decent form, they showed them a lot of respect and sought out basically. But unfortunate for Gala, I mean, they look like they were a wee bit frustrated that they never got a result there, especially at home. Really decent. I've been really impressed with Gala. As I said in the last podcast we've done, I think they've been a revelation, but they obviously just need to pick themselves up after this loss. I think they'll be really disappointed not to get a draw. Again, for Kelty, I don't think we've seen the best of them yet. Nathan Austin's just back, so once he's fully fit, match fit as well, he'll start scoring goals, and Kelty will be sort of going towards the top again.
Yeah, I don't think Gallo will have any issues picking up again, because, as you say, they've been a revelation so far. I was pretty wholesome in my praise when we went in there and they beat us, and they deserved every bit of that game. And it sounds like, as you say, Kelty have just done a professional job the second half. They've not committed too much forward, and they've just seen the game out, taking the sting out of it. Again, it is an important part of a title-chasing team, but we're already at that stage where everyone has lost a game, and that can only be a good thing for the competitiveness. And we've talked about the kind of top 6 or 7 just now, and Gala very much deserve to be in that conversation, I'd suggest still. And we didn't put them there at the start of the season, so they're outperforming all expectations. But I agree with you, Chris. I think Kelty will step on another gear or two. The important thing for them will be keeping these guys fit, because you get the impression if Easton, Austin, one or two others were to be out for any period of time, they wouldn't be the same team. I don't think they rely on these kind of star players to do a lot of the good work for them. But it looks like their other additions have contributed as well. McNabb has done well, having gone over for BSC and chipped in with a couple of goals as well. So they seem to have everything ticking over quite nicely there at the minute. But I don't really have much else to add other than I fancy Gala to bounce right back and keep going, to be honest.
Just on Gala, it looks like that Scott Taylor Mackenzie's having a great season so far.
He was really impressive when I saw him as well. McBride was the other one I noticed. He was a wee bit vocal on Twitter after the game, commenting on Kelty's tactics the second half in terms of, let's just say, quite a low defensive line holding out against them. So I feel like he fancied a point at least out of that game for Gala, but they've got that confidence there as well. That's the thing. They're not kind of approaching games thinking, oh, we're quite lucky to be where they are. They're now expecting to get results against the likes of Kelty, and quite deservedly, in the balance of the evidence we've got so far.
It's a massive compliment to Gala, the fact that a team like Kelty are sort of, sitting back against them, showing them a lot of respect. So, I mean, Neil Hastings and his team will be taking a lot from that, and a lot of maybe frustration at the result, certainly. But it's like, look, Kelty are sitting back against us. We are a team here.
Have I mentioned before how disappointed I wasn't not to play Gal in the second round of the Soccer Shop Challenge Cup? That's what I thought I'd bring it up again when we mentioned Gala. I mean, still pretty good with that.
Every time you say something in soccer, he puts a smile on their face. So.
It's true. So, public service announcement, we'll call it that, right? Public service announcement. Every time you mention Gala, I'll just tell you that I'm still sad about not playing in the cup. Anyway, moving on, it was Edinburgh University versus BSC Glasgow, and it was a 6-0 thrashing, Mozza, we shall call it.
And the scoreline reflected the game. I'll be honest. It was all one-way traffic, pretty much the majority until the last 10-15 minutes. But started off with 9 minutes on the clock. Declan Hughes hit a free kick past Barnes to make it 1-0. It was a good take for Dec, but I've got a funny feeling Barnes will be disappointed. It went in at his near post. It wasn't the strongest free kick. It dipped right down and bounced just at his hand, so he'd expected to turn that around the post, I'd imagine. But that basically got BSC's tails up, and it was one-way traffic from there. So 16 minutes, second goal came along. Uni, as they did a few times, played themselves into trouble at the back. Jamie Glasgow dispossessing Louis Squires, got on the angle and hit a low drive in off the far post. Cracking finish for Jamie. And it was a half-hour mark for the third goal, but it was worth the wait because it was the first of two absolute pings for Glasgow to seal his hat-trick. So got the ball 35 yards out, didn't really have a pass on, thought, you know what, I'm just going to take a bash. And it went right in. Again, the keeper might be a wee bit disappointed. I think he could have probably got a hand to it, but it just went right over him into the roof of net. Fantastic strike. And 4 minutes later, he did it again. It was, I couldn't believe it. He didn't get closed down quicker after the first one, but the ball broke after a corner. Hamilton had the ball on the edge of the box, squared it to Glasgow, and he knew exactly what he was doing. As soon as the ball came to him, one look and smacked it, this time in the top corner, so the keeper had no chance. And that was at half-time. It was on the 59th minute after that Geoghegan scored the next from outside the box. But yeah, kind of set piece off the training ground, corner straight out to the edge of the 18, and Geoghegan didn't really hit it that hard. He just kind of guided it into the far post. Brilliant finish, and just to seal the deal, 4 minutes left on the clock. Great cross in from Declan Hughes on the right this time, and Ryan Tierney, who just came back from his injury as a sub, rose highest to stick it away. So Uni did have their moments in the last kind of 20 minutes or so. Their coaches were getting right at them. You could tell they were not happy about the performance. But they kind of made their own problems. Like, they, instead of just getting rid of the ball at the back, they were trying to play too much football between the centre-backs, the full-backs, defensive mids, and they kept getting dispossessed because of BSC's pressing game. So, if anything, they made their job easier, I'll be honest. But the second half, they did the normal no-nonsense, get the ball and get rid of it, and they actually got a couple of good chances in the break using pace. So it's not a total disaster when you think about the way they finished the game, but it's the third game, and like BSC have now won 6-0, 5-1, 6-0 in the last three. So after a tough couple of games, we're flying again.
It's brilliant for BSC because it's one thing we've kind of discussed, that the top teams haven't been winning 5-0, 6-0 like last season, but BSC are certainly one of the ones that have been doing it week in, week out. I noticed Michael Moore was a wee bit disappointed at the team of the month. I'm going to throw you under the bus because you mentioned McCracken. So
to be fair, I did, because I believe I'd said Daz first, and it was like, yeah, have you got anyone that isn't an attacker? Because obviously with these things, the attacking players always get mentioned for Team of the Weeks and Team of the Months, don't they? So, and McCracken's been brilliant as well in the back since he's joined us. But if you're asking for the whole of BSC, it's got to be Daz Christie, I think, for Player of the Month. Yeah. He didn't have the best of games on Saturday. It was one of those that just nothing went his way. But such is the attacking strength in that team now, you've got to stop 3-4 players and make them all have an off day. Gala did it, and they're the only team to do it so far, I feel like. So we're a really good attacking side. There's still question marks at the back now and again, I think, but we're definitely exciting to watch.
Well, what is it, Ben? Ben, you said not having Daz Christie in the team was a disgrace or something like that. But
absolute disgrace.
You're right, Derek, though, because, I mean, Jamie Glasgow, Darren Christie, Jamie Hamilton, I mean, any of these guys, they're likely to be in, let's face it, they'll be in the team of the month, in the next few months. I would say any one of them could be, was it BSC, Jamie Glasgow again, so great. But yeah, I'm sure Daz Christie will make it, and then I can make Michael happier next month. I might even ask him for the suggestion just to be on the safe side.
I mean, to be honest, you should just reserve a spot for him now for the next 2 months.
I would agree. As the first member of the Daz Christie fan club, he should be in every team of the month. That being said, I mean, those West boys are absolutely causing it up in BSC at the moment, and I think it's testament to those guys that they're probably playing. They've been playing below that level for so long. For whatever reason, I mean, we'll not go into too much detail about why people are playing where they're playing. So,
well, let's be honest. Like, there's several reasons. There's handiness, locality, money, any of these things, But I did say at the time I thought they were brilliant loan signings and majorly pushed us from being on the outside looking in to potentially challenging. And I stand by that if things go away, because if that attack's on fire and you've got Glasgow and Christie involved, just watch out, that they could give any League Two side, I'd suggest, a bit of battering as well.
All right, next up was University of Stirling versus East Stirlingshire, and it was a 3-0 win for Shire at Forth Bank.
Yeah, I managed to catch this game. It was actually, the first half was kind of, there wasn't a lot of chances, to be honest. The game started really well. Like, both teams, the first sort of 10 minutes, they were both really going for it. I kind of thought this is the sort of perfect tempo for Stirling Uni, but it did calm down, and East Stirlingshire sort of took charge from there. 30 minutes in, and it was a great chance crafted out between Sean Brown and Marty Orr. Marty pulls his shot wide from inside the box. Early chance for East Stirlingshire. Probably the best chance of the first half. 33 minutes, Sean Brown is clean through. Big bobble off the pitch as he tries to slot home, and the shot goes wide. Half time, fairly even game, but as I say, I don't think there was much in it. There wasn't a lot of chances for either side. So 0-0 at half time. Early into the second half, it was a penalty to Shire. Andy Rogers is brought down and he steps up and scores 1-0. Not long after that, he got his second and Shire's second. And on the 70th minute, it was Nicky Lowe to seal it for Shire. It was a really decent lob over the keeper. Brilliant win for East Stirlingshire, considering they have been a wee bit disappointed lately with some of the results. I thought, one thing I have to mention, I thought Shire really controlled the tempo of the game really well, because if Stirling Uni get going, they're very energetic. They could probably run rings around most teams in the later stages of the game. But it was perfect tempo for East Stirlingshire. I think Chris Geddes had mentioned, obviously, they just didn't turn up that second half. I think it was a bit of both. I think certainly you've seen Stirling Uni play better, but I think, as I mentioned, Shire really controlled the tempo of the game, and it suited them. Experience over youth, as I mentioned on Twitter. Yeah, I wouldn't worry too much about University of Stirling. It's a disappointing defeat, but Shire, again, getting right back up there in terms of results. One thing I do have to mention is, obviously, I noticed Jamie Dishington put a wee highlight of one of his passes to absolutely no one on Twitter yesterday. I had a bit of a laugh at that. But yeah, brilliant result for Shire. University of Stirling, they will probably want to move on quickly and get back to winning ways.
It's exactly what Shire needed after midweek, isn't it? And fair play to Dish. Dish likes to take the mick out himself quite a bit. I've noticed that. He's quite good at kind of seeing the funnier side of things, but I don't think Chris will be too upset into kind of Stirling Uni side of things. That obviously the scoreline looks pretty bad. I don't think it was that different between the sides, if that makes sense. But Uni and Stirling aren't expected to be up in that chasing pack, and what they've done so far has been fantastic. He keeps telling us to get the heat off them, so it might not be the worst thing if we're not praising them at the hilt for 1 week anyway. But I think that result for Shire was 100% needed, because lose that and suddenly you're losing ground on the top, and you can kiss any kind of aspirations goodbye of getting out of the league this year. So they've pulled the bag when they've needed to, and it's great to see Sean Brown back and starting and contributing as well.
Yeah, I agree. And I forgot to mention, when in the highlight you can clearly hear Dell shouting like "protect the ball" or something, just as Jamie Dishington's lobbed it to anyone. I reckon Dell must have been having a chuckle at himself after saying that, I think. But fair play. We always got on with Dish and that and the guys at Shire, but it was one of those things, I like to see University of Stirling do well, but I think we've got a really good relationship with East Stirlingshire too. But it's one of those ones where everyone can win, basically, especially in football. But Stirling Uni, capable of scoring goals on their day. I just don't think there was a lot of chances in this game, and the ones that Shire had, they put away. So that was the main difference. They were far more clinical. But Jamie Pinker still top scorer in the league. I reckon they should be making the Feed the Pinker t-shirts. I think they'd be popular. I would certainly buy one. Get a merchandise or whatever it is. So
there you go, Mazza. You're the man for doing making t-shirts up, aren't you? Get involved in that.
I'm sure there'll be somebody at uni that can make knockoff t-shirts and get them out quickly,
Christmas specials.
The only other thing, the Andy Rodgers centre-back experiment lasted all of 45 minutes, obviously, so he's back to where he should be up top.
That was a bit random, wasn't it, on Wednesday night when he came on at half-time and it was like, he's played centre-half? What's going on?
You could probably hear in my commentary, I was very, very confused for about 5 minutes.
To be fair to Andy, I don't think we've talked him up too much, but he has scored a few goals in the last few games, so he's near the top, chasing Jamie Pinker as well.
He's still a good goal scorer as he ever was, isn't he? He's not lost it, so he's still a really important player for Shire, even if he's mainly coming off the bench.
And he's not a centre-half, so he can score.
And he's not centre-half.
Next up, it was Cumbernauld Colts versus Cali Braves, and it was a 1-0 win for the Braves.
Another eye-opening one, given the way these teams have had their respective starts to the season go. 17 minutes in, Colts captain Stephen O'Neill lashed out at John Guthrie and got his marching orders. So straight away, Cumbernauld fighting from a disadvantage down to 10 men. First half of little chances. There was a crossbar rattled just 2 minutes before half-time. Sinclair with the corner, met by Dowie. His header crashed off the woodwork with Braves, very much in the ascendancy at the closing stages of the first half. But into half-time, not really much going either way. Second half was only a couple of minutes old when Dowie went close again, nodding on a Sinclair set-piece, but Greer making the save for Colts. And we had to wait till the 65th minute for Braves to break the deadlock. Dowie this time managing to get his goal after threatening, tapping in from a Sinclair free kick. Rest of the game, 15 minutes left, McLaughlin going close, and this time it was Greer making a sprawling save. No changes for the Braves from what they were saying on their Twitter, that they were just camped in the Colts half for pretty much the whole game since they went down to 10. And 1 minute left, again it was the Braves in the attack. Jamie Walker this time firing for distance. Another good save for Greer, and that was it. So there's not much to report in terms of chances, but it's a massive 3 points for Cali Braves because they have not been great, let's be honest, and not just in the results but performance-wise as well this season, and they really badly needed something to go their way to get moving. So Colts have been a wee bit up and down. We'll see how they bounce back for this, but especially going to Broadwood, I think that's a massive result for Cali.
Good result for Cali Braves. It's not a team we've talked about kind of having a bit of a terrible start, shall we say. But they maybe, I don't know if maybe getting back Ross McNeil back into the side, but perhaps is making a difference to the whole team, having a guy like him. I know he didn't score on the weekend there, but it maybe just adds that bad dimension and allows other guys to come in and try and get the goal. So good result for Cali Braves, and they'll be, again, they kind of pull themselves away a bit more from the teams below them, which is always nice. A 5 point gap between them and Star and Edinburgh Uni. So good result, and hopefully they can use this result as a springboard for their season, because I think we expected a lot more of Cali Braves at the start, and they haven't quite got to those heights yet. So hopefully, as I say, they can kick on soon.
One thing we have to kind of sort of mention is I don't know how much the early red card for Stengel kind of disrupted the game, if you will, but a good defensive display not to concede, because we have been focusing on maybe like Ross McNeil not being available due to injury, but Cali Braves haven't been great defensively, and it's a decent showing if they've got a clean sheet away to Colts. I do wonder if that has maybe disrupted the game a lot, because Stephen O'Neill, he's not one to... I mean, he does have his moments, but he'll be really disappointed, especially as club captain, to get sent off that early.
I mean, if there's one player that Colts wouldn't want to go off the pitch, it's him. He's the leader they organise on. He's a very, very decent player as well. So no doubt that would have disrupted things for them. And as I've said, it sounded like it was all one-way traffic, didn't it?
Next game, the Spartans versus Dalbeattie Star. It was a 3-1 win for Spartans at Airdsley Park.
Yeah, it was 17 minutes in, and Dalbeattie Star took the lead early. The first really their first attempt. Steve Degnan sending a looping effort into the top corner. It wasn't until the half-hour mark that Spartans equalised. Archie Meekinson draws Spartans level with a neat finish after a fine build-up play by Watson. There was a bit of a delay before half-time, if you will. The ref was pulled over to have a wee talk to Richie Maxwell. He was obviously unhappy at something. Mark on the Spartans Twitter did think the yellow card given to the Dalbeattie gaffer was a wee bit harsh, but 45 minutes just before half-time, Spartans took the lead, knocked down from the head of Aaron Murrell into the path of Scott McCrory Irvin, who rams the ball home to make it 2-1, and it was 2-1 at half-time. And the second half, I did manage to see some of the second half. It was very, very nervy for Spartans. I mean, only one goal in it. Dalbeattie did look solid. We've often talked about it. We've maybe not seen the best of Dalbeattie Star. They looked solid. One thing I did notice is they were shouting. You know, it's one thing I think Spartans are lacking a wee bit sometimes. They, if Ian McFarlane, Subo's been missing. They do lack a wee bit of that sort of leader mentality, and it was fair play to Dalbeattie. They've got them sort of personalities all over the pitch, but it was Spartans that did manage to get the next goal and the win. 88th minute, it was a corner into the box, and it drops to the feet of Adam Corbett, who puts it his laces through the ball, and it's 3-1. Decent win for Spartans. I think Dalbeattie might be a wee bit disappointed not to get a result here, because I do think they played well. I don't think there was much to talk about in terms of chances that second half, but Spartans doing what they need to do and sealing the win. But very impressed with the structure and the discipline of that Dalbeattie Star team, and I think results maybe haven't went their way so far.
Yeah, they're probably looking to bounce back from the game against the Cup last week, and probably expecting to come back in here and try and put in a good performance and get a result. But obviously, that result perhaps last week maybe affected them a bit more, and a more negative performance from them this week. Talking about Lags, got beat off them in the weekend, but let's let the rest of them in the better. It was a sad day. Referee had a great game.
To be fair, when it comes to Star, I think they're more a team that rely on their home results and results with the teams around them, aren't they? They're not a team that I'd have picked out beforehand to say they're going to get something away at Spartans. So it's one of these things I'll go away disappointed from it, but I don't think it'll be too much yellow. They'll just get going again. They're that kind of team that the heads don't really drop at Dalbeattie. They just kind of go week to week, and we know the kind of characters they've got there as well. They'll be absolutely fine.
They play, was it Bonnyrigg they play next week? So not exactly.
It doesn't get any easier.
Not exactly the match you want to try and bounce back from, is it? Let's be honest. Alright, the final game on the fixture list was versus Civil Service Strollers, and it was a 3-0 win for Civil and more misery for Vale.
I mean, it was bad enough for Vale, the cup game previous to this, get called off 3 minutes before it would have been a valid score.
Brutal.
When they were going to get their first win. Just horrific circumstances.
Was it 3 minutes? I didn't realise it was 3 minutes. It was.
I think if it had hit the 70-minute mark, you can then basically call it a day. Mm-hmm. Nothing's going their way there now, is it? Ferrando and the boys, and I'm sure we'll get to conversation after this wee match report about the message he put out.
It was something stupid, mate. Like, it was. I'm sure it was like the 75th minute. It would have been fine in terms of the cup result, and I'm sure the game got called off in the 76th.
There you go. So 3 minutes. Aye.
Grim, man.
It's horrendous. It's absolutely horrendous. But in terms of the game itself, for Strollers will be delighted. First goal was Connor Young on the half-hour mark. And then it was that man again. Delicate chip over the keeper for the second. And to seal the deal is Ali Ufai finding a net with a perfectly placed strike, sailing it into the top corner. We don't have too much to go on, unfortunately, in terms of what happened. A cracking win for Strollers, who, again, I think points a wee bit harder to come by this season. A team that are used to being a wee bit higher on the table than they are right now, but I do wonder about Vale. I kind of feel for Ando, but we had different opinions, didn't we, Chris, on the message he put out in terms of, obviously he's trying to foster this environment of it's us against the world, and you get why he's trying to do that. Managers do it like classically year on year, but I don't know. I too when I was reading it. What about you?
I agreed with him, because you'll notice, especially in the likes of Pie and Bovril, Vale are leaving, similar to the likes of Dalbeattie Star and maybe the uni sides, that they get unwarranted stick. I know Vale, the last few sort of seasons, they've not been great in terms of being near the bottom of the league, but it's a case of teams like maybe high East of Scotland teams, high West of Scotland teams that feel like they should be in the league over them. But at the end of the day, Vale have stayed in this league, and though we have sort of criticised them in terms of their performances, I think when we do it, I think it's a wee bit different. I think hopefully it's what's the word?
Constructive.
Yeah, constructive. So, and I think Ando knows that, but they do get a lot of unwarranted stick, and I would be the same, because at the end of the day, Vale don't have the biggest budget. He's very restricted in who he can brings in because of the area that they're in. You know, not a lot of people will, you know, in terms of around Edinburgh, in terms of clubs, would want to come to Vale. So that's him just geeing up his young team. One thing that disappointed, I did see the highlights. 2 of the goals that Sybil scored were from Vale leaving goal kicks. So it's disappointing. The first one, I think they just missed the header in the middle of the park. It's been flicked on to Connor Young. He's ran right through. The second one, the defender, I don't know why he done this. I think it was one of the younger boys. He tries to slide in for the tackle, but he goes, because it's on grass, he's obviously not going to slide. He stops, and it just makes it's not a really, he's went too soon with the tackle basically. But these are the sort of things, the simple mistakes in that team, that it comes down to experience, I would say. And I think for me, of what Ando said, he's just wanting to encourage the young guys and say, look, all you need is a wee bit of passion and heart, because it's something missing in the modern game. I think I think we mentioned it with Ryan Christie, for example. You don't see a lot of it until you've achieved something. And Vale are a team that are struggling. They need that sort of us versus them mentality. But I know you sort of disagree in some of the stuff he said.
Yeah, I can't disagree with anything you've just explained there in terms of circumstances and the fostering that environment and everything. Totally bang on. But there was 2 main things that I picked out from this that I questioned. One of them was this idea of, you're not a football man, you don't understand unless you've played the game at this level. That's nonsense, quite frankly. And I'll call that out right now, because there are plenty of people who have not played this game at any level that can watch a game and understand it just as well as any manager. I get that he's probably targeting that at certain people on certain websites, so it might just be a poor choice of words. But when I read that, I can apply that to myself as well, and you guys. And I thought, we are not exactly experts. We are here just putting opinions out. It's a podcast, but I'd like to think that when we are describing a game and we are watching highlights of it and so on, that we can make some valid points in terms of the way teams play and add a wee bit of depth to it as well. And I just thought that comment was, it just wasn't best advised, shall we say. The other thing was the powers that be comment, saying that it was almost this idea the powers that be aren't helping us, the route to get us. It wasn't really directed at anyone, so who knows kind of who he had in mind when he said it. It might just be to do with the COVID restrictions with fans and so on and so forth. But we don't know until they actually articulate what it was targeting. Somebody made a valid point, I felt like, in the replies on Twitter, along the lines of, well, that's all fair enough, and you're saying you're fighting your backsides off to stay in the league, and you've done it legitimately on merit up to this point in the last few years. If you're not going to withdraw from the league this season, fair enough. But if a withdrawal paper goes in before Boxing Day, you're kind of going against what you've just said and what you just practiced, what you preach. So I expect Vale to see it the season as I do every other side in this league, and that would only be a thing that would come up if they were to withdraw, citing kind of difficulties as we go. But I don't know, like the way it was put across, the kind of the powers that be, if it's against the Lowland League, I don't think it's fair in any way, because I think the league's been fantastic in supporting the clubs and laying everything out in black and white and just making things as orderly as it is possible to make them in such an unprecedented environment. If it's against SFA, could understand it. Let's be honest. There's not exactly been any financial support coming our way, despite what the SPFL have had and so on. So it might just be the vagueness of it that initially I kind of snapped judgment, thought, wait, are they having a go at the league? And maybe they aren't, they're going to the SFA or whatever, but I think it's worth airing it out to have the other side of the opinion coming out as well, I think.
Well, just a thing on that, Derek. You've got to remember, though, similar to Whitehill, who I think are still a wee bit aggrieved in terms of the floodlight situation. Now they've got their floodlights, but Vale, it was the same. You know, their chairman Stuart, and a guy, a really nice guy actually, but he's like, I don't want to be relegated from this league, you know, for not having floodlights. And I think there's still a wee bit of animosity there. Fair enough, they've got the floodlights now. It was all funded and all this sort of stuff, but. Yeah, you would have a wee bit of a chip on your shoulder, surely, but...
yeah, of course you would, and you're going to use that, and that's what Ando's doing. So I totally get it, and I get why he's doing it, but the other thing with the floodlights, that's not exactly the league.
Yeah, so it's maybe aimed at the SFA more than I don't think the other comment about fans not having a clue or whatever, I don't think that's really aimed at us as well, to be honest.
I'd like to think it isn't.
I mean, look at the likes of myself, and maybe even more so likes of you guys as well. We watch games every week in this league. We've been watching games. I mean, I can't say a number how many games I've seen in the Lowland League over the past 2 years. I kind of, you know, we get to know the players in terms of, you know, when we talk to them, we know the managers, we know this, that, and the next thing. I mean, we don't to the whole story because we're not actually doing it, but I think we've got a massive inkling in how things are run, and we are kind of privileged to know some of the background of what's going on at clubs and that because of the position we're in. So that's why I would suspect that Ando wasn't aiming at us.
I think just to pick up on a couple of the points you've made, I think the first thing in regards to the situation that we're in now with COVID restrictions and stuff like that, we're all in the same boat. So this is the thing.
Yeah, agreed.
That's not a fair point to be making and make that against your case, because we've all got to do the things that are expected of us. Just now, whether that's in Tier 7 or the Premier League, obviously maybe the Premier League teams have got a bit more kind of relaxed approach and maybe do things a bit more easier because they've got more bodies. But in terms of everyone else, we've all got the same size of committees and people on board and things like that to try and do the actual running of these things. And the second thing pick up on about these comments around like fans and perhaps the perceived attention from the media. I mean, you've got to grow a bit of a thick skin, surely, and just take these comments on the chin. I think I mentioned it about another manager early in the season who got a bit upset about some comments, and you've got to be strong and just take these things and just with a pinch of salt sometimes, because if that's your opinion that somebody doesn't have a clue, then why are you caring so much about what they actually are saying? Because obviously it doesn't mean much to you if you think they're not good enough to give your opinion. So
I mean, that's kind of what Chris was getting at. He's obviously doing it on purpose to foster that attitude and that environment, but it's clear for everyone to see what Vale's issues are, and there's no squad depth. The fact that Ando's still playing games tells you a lot.
It could be possible due to the travel restrictions that the Vale aren't getting the players in because of these rules, for example. So maybe that is, you know, there's other things that I can see why he's maybe said that in terms of SFA rules, and his job is probably a lot harder this season because of COVID and that. I know every team has these issues, but you know, Vale are, you know, they're not in the central area of Edinburgh where it's easy to pick up players. I mean, players will have to travel down to Vale and they'll have all these issues. Maybe a player doesn't drive and can't get a lift to the games. So yeah, there's a lot of things to consider, but yeah, I do agree on some respects of what Ando said, but there is other things, obviously. I mean, the biggest example of people not having played the game but know what they're talking about, certainly Jose Mourinho is the biggest one. I mean, he never played the game at a massive level, and he's one of the most successful managers, you know, there's been recently. So
to be fair, he did respond well to my tongue-in-cheek tweet about what he said, so he obviously saw that the right way, did Ando. So that's why I'm kind of giving the benefit of the doubt in terms of the way it was intended, put it that way.
Well, Ando, if you're listening, come and let us know. It's not about us. I mean, we'll all be happy. That's all that matters. All right, that's the roundup for the fixtures past. We'll look on ahead to the fixture list coming up on Friday and Saturday. We're starting off on Friday night. It's Cumbernauld Colts versus the Spartans. at Broadwood.
Away win for me. I don't think Colts have got the form going into it. Spartans are just kind of finding their feet now and getting a bit of a run. So, yeah, I fancy a win by a couple of goals there for the Edinburgh side.
Yeah, Spartans. Yeah, I think Spartans. I mean, I believe Stephen O'Neill probably will be suspended for this massive miss for the Colts. I think it'll be close though. I mean, Spartans haven't ran away with games, so Cumbernauld Colts. A few weeks ago, again, it comes back to this thing where, you know, we prop up a team, they win a few games, and then they're back down, losing again. But yeah, I reckon Spartans in this one for myself.
Okay, next one is East Kilbride versus Cali Braves at the Falkirk Stadium. You've got to fancy Shire here to get a result.
Yeah, you've got to fancy them probably by a few goals as well. We'll see if Cali can kick on, but yeah, Shire are in win or bust mode, I think, for the next few games. That they just need to keep this run going that they've kind of started off now.
Friday night games are weird at Falkirk Stadium. I've seen ones where I've expected Shire to win, and it's been like, you know, a thriller. Civil Silver Strollers last season or the season before comes to mind with a 4-3. So I'm going to go with a Shire win, but I think again it'll probably be a close one.
I'm actually looking forward to this game. I have not seen Cali Braves yet, and I've been looking forward to catching them. So better watch this Friday night, since nobody does anything on Friday nights anymore. So we can just enjoy football on a Friday night. What's not to love? Next up, we move to Saturday. It's Bonnyrigg Rangers versus Kelty at Shielfield Park.
I think this will be a tough one for Kelty. Berwick have obviously get a wee bit of a point to prove in their own mind, if not elsewhere, that they can. Well, when they played against BSC, they were outstanding, kind of organisation-wise and so on. I think Kelty might struggle to break them down, but the first goal will be all important. So I'll go for an away win, but I think there could be a draw there if Berwick play their best game.
Kelty will outscore Berwick most of the time, so I'm going to go with Kelty.
Kelty there myself. Next up is Dalbeat Star versus Bonnyrigg Rose. As we mentioned earlier, it's a tough game to go into for Dalbeat. Bonnyrigg obviously coming off the back of a good result against EK. I fancy Bonnyrigg here myself.
Likewise, yeah, I think Rose will get a couple of goals there as well. They're in good form and good fettle now.
To be fair, no one likes the camel trek down to Dalbeat.
This is true as well.
I've seen Rose against EK. Well, obviously just the highlights, but it looked very impressive. Having said that, I did mention that Dalbeat Star looked a bit structured, and depends how they play the game really. But I think on paper you would expect Bonnyrigg to get the win there.
Next one is EK versus Silver Strollers at K Park. After a disappointing result on Saturday, East Kilbride should come back from that.
I think it'll be a narrow one for East Kilbride, just looking at the way things are going for both sides. They're not exactly free kind of scoring just now, Kilby, but they tend to get the job done, don't they? So Strollers will fancy their chances, but I fancy a home one.
Controversial, but as Kyle Fee and Churchy keep mentioning, ones and zeros for Civil. How they've been, won the last three, apart from maybe Vale, they scored three past them. But I fancy Civil to maybe get something here. But I'm sure they won at K Park last season, actually, if I remember correctly. But different team, obviously, for EK. But I do. I think EK on paper will win, but something in the back of my mind says Civil could maybe sneak something here.
Next one is the bottom of the table clash between Edinburgh Uni and Vale Leaving. You've got to think that if Vale don't win here, it's game over, isn't it? Got to feel.
It's maybe a bit early to say game over, but it's a huge game. If they don't win this, then I don't know where the first one's coming from. So, Uni coming off that pretty harsh lesson off our BSC, I still think it'll be a stalemate. Some tells me it'll be a draw.
These 6-pointers, especially at the bottom, are always, a draw. We've hyped them up previously in previous years, and they've either been 0-0s or 1-1s or something like that. Ando did mention it in his wee comment, obviously, that they're looking forward. I don't think Civil were included in his mind about that, but certainly this game he's looking at as a win. But yeah, I think it's going to be a draw, because these games often are a draw.
Next one is Kent 2008 versus Bowness United. Got to fancy Bowness. Still playing really well. They don't, even though Ghent have kind of had a good game last week, I still fancy Bowness myself personally.
Oh, I don't know. I'm going to sit on the fence here. Gretna are coming off a couple of really good results. Bo'ness might bully them physically because they're not the biggest side, they're getting not the strongest side, but they're more than capable, really good technically. So it could go either way. I'll sit on the fence and say a draw.
Depends how many Bo'ness players are playing like they're over 35s walking football. as Max Christie described some of his players. I think it'll be close. I do fancy Bo'ness United though. I've been really impressed. I've not seen a lot of them, but I've been really impressed with them. But having said that, Gretna lately have had a few decent results. You know what? I think it's going to be another close one either way.
And the final game in the fixture list is University of Stirling versus Gallifreyan Rovers at Forth Bank.
Again, this is really tough to call. I am going to plump for an away win though, seeing Gala get back to winning ways. Yeah,
Gala for me, their form has been excellent. They look like they're very, very decent at the back. So I think it's going to be hard for Uni to break them down. Uni, if they get a few goals though, if they weren't, as I said, they weren't bad against East Lanarkshire. I don't think there was a lot of chances, but I think if Gala can shut the Uni down like East Lanarkshire done, then it's a win for Gala.
I'm going to actually go with University of Stirling here. I'm going to hand out my weekly Benji Bump to Chris Kennedy's side and give him a result. I think if a team needs a result, it'd be good to see them getting the win. So if I'm talking you up, you've got a chance at least. So I'm going to give University of Stirling the win there. Okay, that wraps up the podcast for another week. We'll just go around the table and get all the plugs from everyone. We'll start with Chris to begin with.
At Rampant FM on Twitter, and you can get the Catchup at Official Catchup. Lowland League Catchup or Official Catchup, pretty much everywhere else. YouTube, SoundCloud, Facebook, everywhere. And on to you, Derek.
You can find me at Mozza Plays on Twitter, and you'll find me anywhere else from there, basically. And then to Ben.
As always, it's at Mr. Binger on Twitter. That's probably the best place to send your abuse if you've got any. I still haven't had much. I've been trying to say controversial stuff now and again, but still no one's coming at me in the DMs. It's always nice and positive stuff from people, which is it's always nice to have nice positive comments, but yet to get some flack from anything I've said. I'll need up my game in that front.
I'll just need to bite my tongue for a few weeks and let you take the flack, mate.
Have you had any thanks from Troon since they seem to be on form since you started this podcast?
I know. So I was just laughing the other day on Twitter. I joined the podcast in April, so they hadn't played a game at all since then. We started the season. I mentioned probably a little comment here or there every week, and they haven't lost a game in the West Scotland League, much to my disappointment. So I mean, if it keeps rolling this week and they get another result, then guys, you can thank me. Still think the same about Ryan Stevenson. That's not going to change. But in terms of Troon, doing well. Yeah, I must admit. So you're welcome, Troon. You're absolutely welcome.
Well, it's a bit different because it used to be when I used to give a Spartans result, saying that I thought Spartans would win, they would lose. So I had what was known as the Spartans curse. So you've now got the Benji Bump. So
at least it's a good thing. Aye.
Positivity. Thanks everyone. Catch you all soon.